So I'll just start now. So welcome everyone to the Apprentice Automation Challenge Welcome webinar. We thank you for joining today. My name is Fiona Wong. I'm the events executive at the Imeki, working as part of the events team, who will be looking after the operations of the Apprentice Automation Challenge 2022 this year. Today I'll just briefly introduce you all to the agenda, and then just a couple housekeeping notes to keep in mind of before we start. So please keep your camera and microphones off unless you are presenting to minimize any interferences today. Any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box on the right-hand side. There is a Q&A session at the end, so please raise your hand to unmute and turn on your cameras on to ask any questions verbally at the end. As I mentioned earlier, the webinar is recorded and will be available on the Imeki website, as well as the Apprentice Automation Challenge event page as well. So, moving on to the agenda, we will start off with just an overview of the Imeki, where I'll be joined by a couple of colleagues who will run through the membership and benefits, as well as the prizes and awards at the Imeki, and also the Digital Manufacturing Week benefits. After, we'll go over the challenge itself, where I'll be joined by the 2021 Grand Champions, who will kind of just speak to you about their device and their journey last year. And then a couple of the steering committee and judges will be covering the key dates, finals day at the MTC in September, and also just the different segments of the challenge itself, including the monthly updates from teams, the business presentation, report writing, and also the machine document submission platform that you'll be using over the course of the next few months. And then obviously we'll end with a Q&A session. So without further ado, I will introduce Sandra Madigan, who is our Business Development Manager here at Imeki. She will cover our membership and benefits here. And I will stop sharing for you, Sandra, so you can share yours.
Great. Thanks very much, Fiona. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Delighted to join you this morning. I'm just going to, well, I can get my screen organized. Sorry, bear with me a moment. I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of the benefits of Imeki membership. I've just got a couple of minutes, so I've put some slides together, which I will go through quite quickly, but you have a copy of these that you can refer back to after today. So it's just really to remind those of you that aren't members of all the great reasons why you should join. And for those of you who are members, I hope it'll be a reminder of some of the products and services that are available to you that perhaps you may not be aware of. So Imeki, very briefly, established quite a long time ago. We've just recently celebrated our 175-year anniversary, and we do lots of different things. We are licensed by the Engineering Council to award professional registration. We can award chartered engineer status, incorporated engineer status, or engineering technician registration to suitably qualified applicants. We also accredit university degree courses. We accredit industry training programs. We organise lots of conferences, seminars, student challenges, and we organise training courses as well. And we've also got 2 training centres in Sheffield and Fife where we deliver non-destructive testing training. So you can read up on any of these topics that might be of interest to you by going back to the website at your leisure. Why should you join Imeki? Well, I think there's a number of reasons, which I'll explain to you very briefly in a moment. But we award membership completely free of charge to students and to apprentices. And the reason why it's free of charge is not because there isn't any value attached to it. It's because you are the next generation of professional engineers, and we want to support you in these initial stages of your development. So we give you an opportunity to, if you like, try before you buy by giving you free membership while you're a student or an apprentice. And then we hope you'll continue continue that relationship with us as you progress and move up the career ladder. So it's free of charge to join, and it's a very simple process. And if you're not already a member, I'll show you exactly what you can do or how you can join us shortly. But you can use our products and services to help you throughout your career in terms of moving up the career ladder, networking, contributing to the events that we organise, etc. And if you're on an apprenticeship, when you finish the apprenticeship, you can apply for IMechE registration when you successfully complete your apprenticeship programme. Now, Imeki has members who work across a huge variety of different industry sectors. I've just included a screen grab here of some of our divisions and groups. So if, for example, you work in the rail sector, you might want to have a look at those pages. Equally, if you work in aerospace, the aerospace pages may be more relevant to you. But this is where you can find facts, figures, relevant information, details of events, etc., relevant to the sector in which you're employed. And of course, often it's that additional information that can help you prepare, say, for an interview or for a presentation that you have to give, or a product or project that you're working on. Our webinar hub details,
Just to
yes?
say, if you're trying to share content, it's not sharing currently.
Oh,
I'm just seeing you.
oh, I didn't realize that. Sorry. Can you see the slides now?
That's right.
Oh,
Cheers.
sorry. Apologies. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. I've got two screens here and I wasn't aware of that. Apologies. So I'm merrily warbling on here. So our webinar hub is where you'll find details of the events that we have planned. So you can see here, for example, two events that are coming up that might be of interest to you. There's the ABC of presenting technical information next month. And this week there's one on coaching and mentoring skills for leadership. So our webinar hub is where we detail the events that we've planned, which you can join free of charge. And then afterwards, recordings of these events are on our YouTube channel. So I've just taken a screen grab of the YouTube channel, one of the pages, to show you and give you a taste and flavour of the kind of events that are on the YouTube channel. So as you can see, there are technical events, there are topical events there, or events relating to professional development. So they can be very good as part of your initial professional development, but if you're already a member, can be useful as CPD development opportunities as well. We've also got a fantastic library and information service. The librarians are always super helpful. And if, for example, you need textbooks for your coursework, instead of having to buy them, you may find you're able to borrow them from the library. The institution is very democratic in that it's run by the members, for the members. And the way that that works in practice is that we have committees that are set up throughout the UK and beyond, and they put together a local programme of events. So I'm joining you here from Glasgow today. So I've included a picture here from an event that the Glasgow Young Members Panel organised recently. It was a Careers and Beers event, and it was an opportunity for students, apprentices, developing engineers to come along and meet engineers working at a variety of local companies. So it was a really good networking opportunity, but also an opportunity to find out how those companies, for example, run their assessment centres, etc. So we organise lots of events, and by getting involved, you can help us to set up and run events, and you can develop skills which you can add to your CV, which will help you in terms of moving up the career ladder, etc. We've also got some great careers information pages on our website as well. Again, I've just included a screen grab of those pages to share with you today. And we've also got a support network. Now, hopefully, none of you on the call today will need to use the services of the support network. But if you do, if, for example, you were to find yourself between jobs, you might find that the employment coaching service available through the support network can help you find a new role. Now, if you're not already a member, you can just go online onto imeche.org/apply apprentice, and you'll find the application form which you can complete online. It's quick and easy to submit, and that will allow you to avail of your free membership for the duration of your apprenticeship. Once you complete your apprenticeship, if you wish, you can apply for IMechE membership of the institution. That will allow you to demonstrate that you're competent and that your competence has been assessed and verified by a very reputable professional engineering institution, which can help you move up the career ladder and demonstrate to customers, colleagues, peers, suppliers, etc., that you're competent and that your competence has been assessed and verified. So it allows you to give your CV its own mark of quality assurance, if you like. And my colleagues and I spend pretty much all our time guiding and coaching applicants through that process. So if you need any additional information in the future, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We'll be delighted to help you. I've also included a screen grab of some of the profiles of some of our EngTech members, which you can have a look at when you get a chance, just to share with you and demonstrate why others have chosen to gain EngTech registration. So I hope that's been useful. Sorry about the technical glitch earlier, and would like to wish you all the very, very best of luck with the challenge. And here's hoping that at some point in the future, you'll become an EngTech member and you perhaps will be doing the judging of this competition in the near future. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the session today.
Thank you, Sandra. That was very informative and useful. So I hope many of our team members are already affiliate members by now, and you can make full use of the benefits that Sandra has just mentioned. Now, moving on, I would now like to introduce Scott Patterson, who's a design engineer from Aston Martin and also part of the AAC committee, who is here today to talk to us about the scholarship and awards available at the Imeki.
Yeah, thank you, Fiona. Yes, so my name is Scott Patterson, Aero R&D Design Engineer at Aston Martin, a Ramco Cognizant Formula One team, and I'm obviously on the committee for the Apprentice Automation Challenge, but I've also got some involvement with the scholarships and awards that the IMechE offer. So in particular, it's the Apprentice and EngTech Awards, which obviously aimed at people like yourselves who are on apprenticeship schemes. So we have Best Apprentice Certificate and also a Brian Hildew Apprentice of the Year award, where you can apply. It's a nice, easy application form that's moving online this year, which awards to, I can't remember the exact cash prize, but it is just a cash prize to yourself for the winner of that award. The rewards, so if you do end up going on to gain your EngTech status and become a member of the IMechE, then obviously there's these other awards such as the EngTech of the Year and EngTech Visionary, which you can go on to apply for as well. So I'd always recommend having a look on the IMechE website. These awards and scholarships will be going live in the next month or so. Application forms all online. It's nice and easy to apply. And it's a great thing to put onto your CV as well. So if you have any questions, obviously I'll join back on the call later on for the Q&A session. If anybody's got any questions about any of the awards, I'll be happy to answer. I think that's keep it short and sweet, but I think that's me, Fiona.
Thanks, Scott. Great stuff. So moving on, now we have Grace Gilling, who will be joining us to give us an overview of the Digital Manufacturing Week benefits. Unfortunately, she's unable to actually join us today, but she has kindly pre-recorded all the information for us. So what I'll do now is if someone just confirm that they can see my slides on screen at the moment before I start the recording.
Yes, we can see. I can see that.
So Grace Gilling is one of the Apprentice Automation Challenge Committee members. She's also a member of the Imeki Manufacturing Industries Division. She's the Managing Director at the manufacturer, so she'll be giving us an overview of the Digital Manufacturing Week benefits. So I'll just play the video now.
There's no volume, Fiona.
Hello everyone, my name is Grace Gilling. I'm Managing Director of the Manufacturer magazine. I sit on the Manufacturing Industries Division Board of Imeki, and I'm also a committee member of the Apprentice Automation Challenge. The manufacturers' activities provide the insights, the connections and the solutions that enable manufacturers and their businesses to be more efficient, more sustainable and more profitable. We do that through our editorial content, which is interviews, features, thought leadership, research and analysis. And this gets published in our print magazine, predominantly for the UK market, and online for our global audience of around 270,000 people. We're really proud to sponsor the Apprentice Automation Challenge, and we're proud to promote young people in manufacturing and encourage young people into the sector. As part of our involvement with the AC, we cover the programme in our magazine and online, reaching our full audience. And we also invite the winners to take part in Digital Manufacturing Week. Digital Manufacturing Week is the biggest event that we organise. It takes place in Liverpool, and the main days are the 16th and the 17th, which is when we organise our Smart Factory Expo and our Leaders Summit conferences, and we also run 2 awards programs as well. We invite the winners of the Apprentice Automation Challenge to Digital Manufacturing on those 2 days, the Wednesday and the Thursday, and we invite them to exhibit their product in Innovation Alley, which you can see on the screen now. And here are the 2021 and 2020 winners from Leonardo exhibiting on Innovation Alley, which is at the heart of Smart Factory Expo. This is a great event to attend. It's great for networking reasons. It's great to kind of promote what you've achieved. And it's also a really great celebration as well, because we invite the winners to the Manufacturer IMechE Awards. And the Manufacturer IMechE Awards is industry's largest and most rigorous awards programme. And on the evening, we're awarding the winners of each of the categories as part of that, but we also acknowledge the winners of the Apprentice Automation Challenge during the evening as well. So it's a great way to celebrate your success, have a bit of fun, having some food, drinks and networking again. So really looking forward to meeting the winners in November. I wish you all the best of luck. As I said earlier, we really want to support manufacturers in their careers, and if any of you would like a complimentary subscription to the Manufacturer magazine, please do reach out to me. My email is g.gilling@hennickgroup.com, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Okay, I would now like to invite Solomon McKernan from the team Next Gen at Leonardo, our 2021 Grand Champions, who will talk to you about their product and hopefully some tips and learning points that they've experienced on their journey last year. Solomon, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Solomon.
Okay, great. So I've
Perfect.
got a piece.
I have your slides, so if you need me to drive them for you, just let me know.
I'll put it on myself.
You put it on yourself, okay.
Try that
I'll
first,
just
yeah.
screen share it. You can now share your slides.
All right. Let me know when you can see that.
Yeah, I can confirm I can see your slides on screen.
Okay, cool, great. So yeah, I am Solomon McKernan. I was the team leader for last year's Grand Champions of the Imeki Automation Apprentice Automation Challenge. So I'm going to keep this brief, go through our journey and our product. We're a team of 6 people, and I also touched on some things I learned throughout the journey. So essentially, we created a smart mirror that shows your reflection while overlaying graphics such as tips, instructions, and then when you're not using it, it just blends away into the household as a normal item of furniture. Completely normal mirror when the screen's off behind it. Yeah, so that was our idea. This came about mainly inspired by COVID. So we were going through the pandemic at the time, and we still are in many senses. but our inspiration was to help people physically and mentally stay healthy during this time, especially with things like reopening anxiety and going back to gyms. A lot of people just continued wanting to work at home. So we thought this was something that could thrive during the pandemic and even after, it subsided slightly. One of the main things we wanted was to have a real-world design that was flexible, many applications, was functionable, and we could actually bring it to market. So we had a versatile range of applications and many different places we could see this being bought. A really big part of the project for us as a team was planning out what we were going to do, breaking down the big milestones, the date that the IMechE will give you, and where you want to be at certain points. And then we then split this down further into how we're going to achieve each of these tasks, with the end goals in mind of having a full working product, or at the very least a prototype, and also having a report being 50-50 weighted. As you can see there was some slight overrun. I think there's something really important to build in, because there can always be unforeseen challenges and things you hadn't necessarily expected. I think this was particularly applicable when we were building the product. There were loads of things we hadn't foreseen in terms of issues of actually physically putting things together. So that's definitely something I'd recommend. No matter what the task is, always give maybe at least a week or two longer than you think. And if you're completing all of these tasks in parallel with your team members, then that shouldn't really have too much of a knock-on effect. Furthering onto that, we split up the tasks, delegated them to each team member, their strengths. At one point, we wanted to kind of keep throughout the project was to have everyone involved. So we had regular meetings every single week. So if any member of our team was asked a question, we'd be able to answer. And this type of collaboration really helped also with other people developing design. So the mechanical people were very aware of what the electronics people were doing. And this was quite good. So we tried to get on site as much as we could during the time as well, because just found that best to have those meetings in person. Anyway, so when we actually came to the product, one of the first things we did was create a hard set of requirements, some top level things that we wanted to definitely achieve by the end of it. And this helped us base our design and not let our standards really slip. We had these core things in mind we wanted to achieve, and we're going to achieve them. And then from this, we could say, oh, we can implement this way, or, if we really want to push the design, we can do this extra thing. But I think that's something very important to agree within your team early on. What are the core requirements you want to hit when you have your product at the end? So the way we worked was in an agile manner as opposed to a waterfall manner, which essentially means instead of doing one task after the other, you can do many things in parallel. So we had the software guys from pretty much the very start developing the software. And then we had the hardware guys designing their hardware, and we weren't necessarily waiting for one to be finished for the other. So we had to make sure that there was some leeway in all of our designs to accommodate certain changes that other people might have. But this was really good because there were many points where we were held up on, say, the software or say the hardware, and that would have had a knock-on effect on something else. So this really helped manage our time with unforeseen issues coming up. We're all very, very invested in our product, and we wanted it to have a personal touch. We wanted to make sure it had the highest quality. So we actually, as part of our product, it shows people how to exercise while letting them see their own form. We actually, took photos ourselves, and we put these on the mirror. And I think this was quite good. It gives a professional look to it, allowed us to have some quality control as well as making sure everyone was involved at all stages. We also produced some early renderings. Once again, this made us sure that our standard wouldn't slip and we wouldn't just go for the easiest one while we were building. We had a clear goal in mind, and we were set on to achieve it. It's tempting to jump into it, but I think capturing what you want really, really does help steer you. Then we actually came to manufacturing eventually. We kept in mind the whole time, every time we did a process, every time we built something, cut something, how we would potentially upscale that onto a larger production scale. This is something we noted in our report, and as we're going, and it's a lot easier to do in the moment, I think, than retrospectively at the end. So every time you do something in a project, you can think, okay, how would this then apply if we were making 1,000 units a month or something of the sort? There are many things in this building stage which I'd say it's good to get onto as early as you can. That came up that we didn't think of. One of them, for example, was a back panel so that we could access the electronics. Another thing that happened was our glass actually broke, so we had to get a new custom slab ordered. They had quite long lead times, so that's another thing I'd say. Make sure you get in all your parts early, even if you're not necessarily building them straight away. And your key parts as well, your critical parts that you can't, easily pick up at B&Q or somewhere. I'll say definitely get that order in early. So yeah, but what we learned through this was we're all focused on design, but the build saw many drawbacks, so we had to be quite flexible in that regard. As I said, it didn't all go to plan, but luckily we had plenty of time built in for ourselves in our schedule before the demo. So with everything developing in parallel, we could still be developing the software and the user interface while we were building this as well. So that was quite good. Just touch on the electronics here. For our team, we actually bought pre-built stuff. So a lot of that electronics is ripped out the back of a monitor. Our main brains behind it is using a Raspberry Pi, which was pre-bought, and then linking and wiring all that stuff together. But us just gave us rapid prototyping, and we detailed in great depth how we'd actually upscale this to custom PCB and things like that. But I think it is really impressive and quite good to have a fully working prototype, and the judges quite like to see it from what I gathered. If you do have to, make some changes to your design that wouldn't necessarily be in your final product, as long as they get a full prototype, I think that's worth it. And as long as you document how you would, implement something else or tweak things for full production model, that's something I'd recommend as well. Another thing we had was a business case. So throughout, we were tracking all the time we were using, how much that would be charged on a normal employee, and also all the materials we'll be using. Using these real figures is quite good because it allows you to do forecasts, financial projections, things like that. So all of the business members of your team especially, this would be good to make sure everyone in the team is keeping track of their time so that you can actually budget it as part of a development cost, and also make sure you're keeping track of everything you're ordering as well in terms of raw materials to build it. And once again, we had everything planned out for the next steps of what we've currently been using and then how we'd upscale it. My final point here is just the actual demonstration on the day. We've treated it like a sales pitch. We're all very familiar with the product. We'd spent months and months working on this. That's us on the morning, just polishing the front of the mirror. And we like to treat this as almost a sales pitch. So we really try to get the judges involved. We're all very enthusiastic. You've got to remember, this is a real sell. This is 50% of the marketing, essentially. This is really good. This is where, you want your product working. You've already sent off your report at this point. You've put in all that hard work. So this is definitely something worth rehearsing and making sure every single member of your team is very confident. You should know your report like the back of your hand. And you should just try and get them to engage with your product as much as you can. Just a final note on things. It's quite a hard challenge, I'd say, if you want to put your work into it, but it's very, very rewarding. And we've all said between our team of 6 that this was generally some of our best time as apprentices so far, especially including, the Liverpool trip to Digital Manufacturing Week, that Smart Factory Expo afterwards as well. Yeah, it was a really great experience. Really invaluable as well for networking and career development, something you can say you've done, and also just your own personal development of going through this actual product development. So enjoy yourself, you'll learn loads, and when you're putting in that work, make sure you make yourself proud, because at the end of this, you want a full report and really a full prototype that you can look at and be like, I spent all this time making it, I'm proud of this, we could take this to market if we wanted to. We're in the local news and plenty of things like that, so it's a really good opportunity. Yeah, that's my final piece. So, thank you for that.
Thank Thank you, Solomon. That was pretty interesting to see. And I had the opportunity to actually be there last year to see the product itself. So thank you for sharing your journey with us. And I hope that this was helpful for the teams this year. So moving on, I'll just quickly share my screen again. So we will now have Jason Yearsley, who is our chair of the Apprentice Automation Challenge Committee. Jason will cover the challenge key dates and also the finals event venue and format for the day. Jason, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Yes, we can hear you. You're slightly quiet. I don't know if you speak a little louder.
Just check I'm not covering the mic. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can see and hear you now.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
Okay, so yeah, so the key dates. If I could share. Do we have a slide, sorry, Fiona, with the key dates? Okay, we're currently in the process of updating the website. I'll show you that, but the can I share my screen, please, Fiona?
Is my screen showing now?
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. It took a while to load. Okay. Yeah. So the key dates. So we've added into this year some additional things that Jack will go through later, involving the presentation updates. I'll let Jack expand on them, but they're just a quick thing to sort of keep us posted on your progress throughout the report. But the main ones of concern will be the 1st of July for your report deadline. So obviously I'd keep that in your time plan. Solomon showed that was a really good way to manage his time and make sure you're not rushing too much before the end. I know I've done similar things in the past towards deadlines. And then we've got another webinar about your final presentation on the 17th of August. So put that in your diaries, and then there'll be some more tips towards your finals day presentation. And then we've just confirmed, we're still waiting to update this on the website, the final competition on the 2nd of September at the Manufacturing Technology Centre. This is a Friday, so for that day you'll sort of arrive in the morning, set your prototypes up, do some health and safety, and then you'll deliver your competitions, and there'll be a networking event and other activities going on during the day to keep you interested. So yeah, I think we'll update the website soon, but you should be able to refer back to this for these dates now in the future.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason. I will now introduce Jack Boys. If I just quickly change. Jack, are you with us today to go through the monthly updates from the teams?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
I'm still seeing the yellow slide at the moment. I think I'm getting a bit of a lag here.
Is it showing now?
Yeah, I can see that now. Okay,
Perfect.
so we're introducing the social media post submission to the competition this year. We've got some monthly update templates to form the basis of your submission. You can see the two of them on the right here. That just sort of they give you some suggested topics to get you going. The submission dates Jason's just touched on. They're listed again here, and you'll hear more about Mushroom later in the webinar on how to submit those. As part of the submission, there's an option to consent to your posts being shared on the IMechE platforms, both Facebook and Twitter. If you don't consent to that, that won't affect your marks. You'll still get marked, but it just means that the posts won't be posted on to the IMechE accounts. In terms of what we're looking for from the submissions, there's 2 marks for each submission, 10 in total from the 5 posts. The first mark is all around consistent posting. So if you submit the submission by that 5 p.m. deadline, you will get the first mark. And then the second mark is about the quality of the content, and we've got some of the information there. So we'd like to see professional, high quality content. Think about good lighting for the photographs, making sure the colours are bright and clear, and the wording's well written. Think about the target audience for your product. Make sure the photos and the words stand out to that audience, and it's going to be sort of eye-catching if they're scrolling through social media. And these kind of posts don't tend to hold consumers' focus for very long. So we want to see you communicating your key points skillfully and effectively. And those are the kind of criteria that will get you that second mark for each of the posts. That's it from me. If there's any questions, feel free to submit during the Q&A and we'll answer there or share information with teams afterwards if required.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Raymond, are you there? We're just going to be joined by Raymond Hodgkinson, who will cover the business presentation segment.
Yes,
Raymond is one of our AC judges and
if I could
international
share,
vice
well,
president.
I think it's probably
Yes.
easiest if I share mine, because then I can.
Yeah,
just
no
hurry up.
worries. I will stop sharing now. There you go, Raymond.
Okay, share. Share, and that isn't it. Hang on. Just give me 1 second.
No worries.
Presentation.
Perfect. It's a full screen.
It's got it. Okay, fine. So the point of the business plan is to show how your idea can be turned into a profitable product on the market. So what are the elements of a business plan? There are 5 basic elements in a business plan. And we'll look at each one in turn on the subsequent slides. There's the product, the market, your marketing strategy, your costs, and the finances. So let's have a look at some of these. The product is the heart of the business plan. You've obviously put a lot of thought about what to make, how to make it, and why to make it. So consider what's special about it. You obviously had some ideas or you wouldn't have made it. What benefits does it offer? Why would anyone want to have it? And if you've got any benefits that other products do not have, which is technically known as unique selling points, these are very important. Why would people want it? That's a pretty obvious question, but think about it because that tells you how you're going to tell people why they would want it. And it could be something as simple as having something better than the person next door. What competitive products are there? And this is a little bit more complex than it seems. Don't just consider alternative versions of your own product, but think of other products that could meet the same need. So if you've invented a super adhesive, competitive products could include sticky tape, nails, screws, staple guns, anything that would join materials together in other ways. And when you're looking at your competitive products, also look at what their prices are, because that'll affect what people are prepared to pay for your product. The market, and that's just meaning where are you going to sell it? When considering the market, think about who'd want to buy it. These are your customers, your target market, as Jason said. How much are they prepared to pay for it? What is the price that the market's going to reach? And when you're looking at the prices, think about how many they're likely to buy, because the higher the price, the less you're going to sell. So there's a sort of break even here between getting the maximum price and the maximum income. You have to find the sweet point there. But when you're basing your selling price, try to think about what people are prepared to pay rather than what it costs. In other words, if you've got a fantastic product that only costs you £10 and people are prepared to pay 100, sell it for 100. You need to do some market research to justify these assumptions. And when you're doing that, show how you've reached the figures. These can be a relatively small sample of friends or family or colleagues. I don't expect you to give me a complete Google poll on it, but give something to justify the figures you've got, both in terms of pricing and in terms of sales quantities. You could base these on internet figures. For example, X% of the population own their own home but work all day, so they're going to want something to automatically feed their pets while they're out or water their plants while they're out. So this could also justify. How will you get it to the customers? Called the route to market. And think about shipping costs. Think about resale margins. Think about packaging and insurance for items lost or sold in damaged in transit. And what about regulations? Do you have to meet health and safety regulations or fire regulations? Does it need a CE mark, for example? And lastly, does the product have a limited life cycle? And if it does, can you extend it by bringing out an improved version? iPhone are a classic case of doing that. Now your marketing strategy. And the first decision you've got to take is, are you going to sell directly or through shops or, of course, through an online reseller like Amazon? If you do sell through shops or through Amazon or someone like that, they're going to want their margin, so you have to calculate that in. On the other hand, you're going to save on advertising costs. If you're not selling through them, you're going to need advertising. If no one knows about your product, they're just not going to buy it. So think about how you'll advertise and try to think a little bit beyond social media and print advertising. For example, you could get a spot on local TV. Local apprentices come up with fantastic new idea. That is much better advertising than something you've paid for because people take more attention to it. Or you could get some celebrity to use it publicly on TV, which is known technically as product placement. How will you package it? People buy with their heart, not with their brain. If it's attractively packaged, it's going to fly off the shelves. If the packaging is ugly, people won't touch it, or a lot less people will buy it anyway. So think about that, and also think about packaging in the sense that it should protect your product against damage in transit. It's no good having a lovely mirror for like our last year's winners, if it comes to the customer in 1,000 pieces. So obviously that has to be packaged very carefully. As mentioned above, if you're selling through third parties, you're going to have to allow for their margin, and these can be quite considerable. And what about after-sales service and guarantee costs? Are you going to need a service team? Are you going to have to allow a margin for replacements if things don't work for one reason or another? And after-sales doesn't always just have to be a cost. It can be an income too. You could be selling spare parts after the guarantees are over, or even selling service or updates, or sending out service engineers to fix the unit in the people's homes at cost. Again, in all this, think about your target audience. Who are you selling to? What's going to appeal to them? You'll obviously have different marketing strategies if you're aiming to people in the retired generation to if you're aiming at teenagers. Costs. Costs are not always quite as obvious as they should be, but let's look at them. The first thing is obviously, what did your prototype cost? You'll know this pretty accurately. But then you've got to think, what will it cost when we go into mass production? And that could and probably should be quite a different figure, a lot lower. And your unit cost is made up of two main factors. The material costs, and in that you can often average shipping costs and guarantee costs into that, and labor costs. I'm getting a bit of a mini strike there. Labor costs are the cost to make each unit. These are what are called the variable costs, because the more you make, the more these costs will be. Then come the so-called fixed costs, which are factory rental, energy, wages, etc. You're going to have your factory, you're going to have your employees, whether they make 1 unit or 1,000. So these tend to be fixed. Marketing costs will come on top, as I mentioned before, as would delivery costs, but as I said, these can often be averaged into your unit cost for ease of calculation. And guarantee costs, and that again can be averaged out. If it's any help in large machine tool manufacture, which is where I come from, the accounting standard says you should allow 2% of the selling price, not the cost price, the selling price, per year as an estimate of guarantee costs. And that is, in our country at least, the accounting principle. So even if you have a wonderful product that never breaks down, the accountants will hit you with those costs on your initial margin when they're calculating margins. Once you've got your costs, you need to think about the finances, the profit and loss. And this is really what a business is all about. Do we make profits? Do we make losses? So for each period in your study, and in the example that follows, I've used months, but you could use quarters, years, even seasons if it's a seasonal product. It's a good idea to work on a best case, worst case scenario. Firstly, this gives you a better idea of what could happen, the range of things that could happen, because no one knows the future exactly. They'd be very rich if they did. Secondly, if you are trying to get a financial backer in the real world, a best case, worst case is far more convincing for them than to say, we are going to sell 24 a month. Not 23, not 25, 24. Bluntly, they just won't believe you. If you've got a best case, worst case, they will. And don't be put off if you show losses initially, but we'll come to that in a minute. It's normal to lose in the initial period. So to get to your profit or loss, take the net cost per unit by the number sold. Fairly simple arithmetic. Add the fixed costs for that period. In each case, I'm talking about working them for a period. This gives you the total costs for that period. Then you look at the sales price per unit by the sales number. And of course, both for that and for the net costs, you're going to have two sales numbers, the best case and the worst case. This gives the total income. Subtract the costs from the income to give a net profit or loss for the period. And that could look and be realistic. I also judge business cases for the Formula student. And if you see someone who's going to make 3,000% of the investment in the first year, you don't believe them. You never believe them. The last CEO I knew who promised his company a 50% ROI is now looking for another job. Be realistic. So this is an example of a profit loss calculation where I've just done what I told you in the previous slide. I've taken worst case, best case, taken the unit costs and the sales price, and then you get the total costs for best case and worst case, total income. And as I mentioned before, initial period, you're almost certainly going to have a loss. Don't let that distract you. It's normal. In fact, if I was looking at a business case that was going to make a profit from day one, I would be extremely cynical about it. I just wouldn't think it was realistic. And naturally, in the best case, worst case, you're going to come into profit a bit later than in the best case. And the cumulative is also going to do that. And it's a very good idea in your appendices, not only to have a table like this, but to have a nice chart. Engineers love charts, and most of your judges are engineers, if not all of them. So here you can see the cumulative profit in the best case, and in the worst case, you can see your profit and loss per month or per period in the best and worst case. And it gives you an idea how's the business going to go. Final thoughts. When you finish your business case, read it through again and again, and then get someone else to read it through for you. It's amazing when you've written something, you read what you think you wrote, not what you actually wrote. It would be really a shame to spoil all your hard work by leaving in some silly typing errors or spelling errors. And bluntly, don't trust Word for this. Bill Gates is not an English professor. Some of the grammatical corrections it offers are actually wrong or are American English. And you can use American English, but if you do, you've got to be consistent and use it throughout. I often see in the business world reports that have got sort of American spelling at the beginning of a sentence and English at the end. That's very unprofessional, and it doesn't make a good impression. It won't cost you a lot of marks, but it just takes away from the impression. Lastly, I wish you a lot of fun and a lot of success. Thank you. I'll now stop slide sharing. Slideshow.
Perfect. Thank you, Raymond. We will now move on to the report writing. So if we would like to be joined by Toby Haggerty, if you're there, who is our head judge of the challenge. So Toby, would you like to do a screen share or would you like me to?
I'll let you run it if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Raymond, can you just stop sharing for me?
I beg your pardon, I thought I had. Stop sharing. Has that stopped?
No, I'm still seeing your PowerPoint.
Control-Shift-E, Control-Shift-E.
Perfect. That's
Okay,
all
is that
good.
stopped?
Yep, that's stopped.
Good.
I'll share.
My apologies.
No worries. So Toby, just give me some verbal cues when you'd like me to advance through the next slide.
Will do. That'll be a good time. Thank you. So yes, I'll be talking through my notes in terms of what to expect for the report writing itself, and then share some tips at the end. Some of the content that I'll be discussing will have been addressed either by Jack or Raymond previously, so they will be potentially more glossed over. But however, I will still try and talk a bit about each one. So if you could just bring up the topics, please, Fiona. So the first thing we're looking at is the mark scheme itself. So we're going to actually talk about the breakdown of how your report will be marked. We'll give a bit more information in terms of the design specification, manufacturing process, business case, which again, as I said, Raymond has discussed. I think I've got a couple more points still to show there. Report presentation and structure. There's the monthly update, which again, Jack has discussed. And finally, as I said, my top tips, more tips for writing. So could you bring up the next slide, please? So the mark scheme itself. The report will be marked along the following criteria. First thing, design specification will be at 30% of your marks. The total report is given out of 100, so 30 marks. Manufacturing process, again, 30%. The business case will be marked at 20%. Next, we have the presentation and structure, which will be marked at 10%. And lastly, while not technically part of the report, it's included as part of how we're marking this section of the challenge, which is the monthly updates at the last 10%. So you can, as Jack has stated, get 10 very easy marks for your reports just by getting those monthly updates in. So next slide, please. So the design specification itself. Have you shown good design documentation? Have you considered different requirements of your prototype? Have you displayed evidence of your design skills? Why have you selected certain hardware or software to create your prototype? Show us maybe some considerations that you made before you settled on it. Maybe show us a Pew matrix to show how you ended up where you were. The manufacturing process is the next step, area. So have you addressed all requirements of manufacture? Most of your judges, as Raymond has said, are engineers, and they will potentially pick into that quite heavily. If they feel you haven't addressed something or haven't given enough information, they will call you out on it. Differences. So consider the differences in the processes of the creation of the prototype versus mass manufacture. For prototyping, you may want to go down a CNC or a 3D printing route. However, this may not work or may be incredibly costly and slow for mass manufacture. So how would you potentially look at a different approach for doing that? And include information on different stages of manufacture. Solomon has mentioned this as well himself in his presentation. As you are designing and building your prototype, consider how things would be different going forward. Have you shown strong supporting evidence for your decisions? So we want to see some information, not necessarily a large section of your report dedicated to it, but information as to maybe what went wrong and how you learned and what you improved from it. We aren't going to assume, none of us will assume you came to the correct answer first time. If you do, fantastic. However, we'd like to see some sort of evidence to show why you picked the route you took. Next slide, please. The business case. I won't dwell too heavily into this. As I said, Raymond has covered it. But have you shown good use of business analysis techniques? A couple of examples, these are by no means exhaustive, these are just a couple, are SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunities and threats, and PESTEL, which is political, economic, social, I forget what the other three are, top of my head, 1 second, technological, legal, and environmental. Again, these are just two. There are many business techniques to consider, so it would be good to see some of them in your report alongside the information that Raymond has already suggested. Market research, again, Raymond has discussed this, but have you considered competitors? Not necessarily competitors in terms of direct competitors, but similar competitors. Or is your product in a niche market, and how is that going to affect your overall business case? As I said, this has already been covered. This was maybe a slightly older slide where I was talking before Raymond, but yes, this has already been covered by Raymond. Report presentation and structure. Is your report clear and concise? Have you got, we don't want to see necessarily a lot of waffling, give my sort of colloquialism, throughout your report. We'd like you to make sure you do get to the point. You do have a limited word. You do have a word limit. This is going to be addressed in the template that will be sent out. And we want to make sure you stick within those word limits as much as possible. The judges will offer some degree of allowance, wiggle room, discretion, but try and stick to that limit. Is it well structured, and do the sections follow in a logical manner? The report template we are providing should enable that to be more possible. We have sort of made a more prescriptive template compared to previous years. Again, as Raymond stated, have you ensured your report is free of grammatical and spelling errors? It's a very easy place to lose marks. You won't lose a lot of marks, but as Raymond said, it won't look as good, and this is something you ought to be proud of at the end of it all. Citations. Have you made use of them? If so, have you presented them correctly? There are 4 methods of using a citation: direct quote, paraphrasing, summary, or quoting the entire text. We would probably advise against quoting the entire text, or at the very least, if you're going to, maybe link it as a reference that we can go and find ourselves, or link it as a reference which you then place in the appendix. Don't swallow your entire word limit just with a citation if you can help it. I think next slide. So the last element to discuss is the monthly updates. As Jack has stated, each update is worth 2 marks, and they're going to be very easy marks towards your final report. The content will be as follows. End of April, meet the team. We want to meet you. We want to learn a bit about you. End of May, the problem. What are you hoping to? What is the issue you intend to tackle with your report, with your project? Then design concept. Some initial information about your design, what we're going to see, and how you expect it to see at the end of the project. End of July, some development. Hopefully by this point in time, you should be quite deep in your prototyping process, and maybe even finished it. Who knows? We'll see. And then manufacturing process. So by the time you come to this step, your report will already be done. So you should be able to, in this instance, pull information out. The benefit that our thoughts behind the monthly updates is the content that you generate for these updates can then go into your report, therefore giving you some early start, or at the very least some good leaping off points to develop your report further. So lastly is my tips for writing that have been sort of adapted over the years. The first, again, reiterating what Raymond has stated, proofread your report before submission. You yourselves as a team will be very close to the report and are likely to miss even the most minor spelling errors. So try and get someone else outside, because it can be a family member, it can be another colleague, someone who's not related to the project, to have a proper read of it, to have a look for any potential suggestions or improvements you could make. Secondly, stick to the section word limits. As I said, the judges will have some degree of discretion, and we may not necessarily hammer on if you're maybe 10 words over. But if we start seeing 100, 200 words over the limit, we're going to probably start to dock you a few marks in your report structure. Use of figures and tables. A picture is 1,000 words, so that's a good way to get your information across without eating into your word limit. However, we only want you to include images in your main body if you're directly referencing them in your text. If you have images or figures or tables that you really want to be, you feel are relevant, but you're not directly referencing, place them in the appendix and make sure and indicate for us to check there. At the same time, your appendix doesn't have a limit, but we don't want to be constantly flicking back to the appendix every few pages because you've made another reference. Report style. The report is likely to, and hopefully will, contain contributions from all members of the team, but you'll each have your own writing styles. So make sure that you once the report is finally assembled, you read through it all to ensure that it's been written in a similar style. Ideally, we'd like you to write with the passive voice throughout. So an example with that would be, it is known that the sky is blue. It's a very simple method of it's passive reporting verb and a clause. We don't really want to see I thought this, or we thought that, or the team believes such and such. We want it to be seen as more of a point of fact rather than as a team. Lastly, keep your report focused on a prototype being developed. At least I think this is lastly. In previous years, we have seen reports containing information on other prototypes that the team had considered developing. While they are very interesting, it does take it away from from the project you were actually working on. And as stated before, it will eat into your word limit, which we really would try and stick to as much as you possibly can. I believe that is my last point. Yes, that is my last point.
Yes, that was
So thank you very much for listening.
perfect. Thank you, Toby. We will now move on to the probably final section of the overview of the challenge, which is the Mushroom document submission platform, which will be covered by our senior marketing executive here at the IMechE, Chris Smout. I think most of the team will be familiar with Chris as he looks after all our marketees for the challenge. Chris, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, ready and waiting. I think we saved the easiest one for the last, really. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Apprentice Automation Challenge. So easy thing, really, for me to do. I'm just going to take you very quickly through a very, very simple website that we're using called Mushroom. We are going to be using. You've got to shout when you can see the login screen. Oh, indeed. It looks like it's not been accepted for control, but it's absolutely fine. So just to let you know, we're using a site called Mushroom. Details, if you haven't already got them to log in for your team, you'll be sent them very shortly. Generally speaking, it's a very, very simple document uploading website. Once you log in, you'll see like a specific folder for your team, so that they can upload, all the reports that you're doing every month, as well as the other things that are listed in your key dates submissions. Just a few things really to housekeeping. Call them, when you're uploading something, please call it, in the file name something obvious so that we can see what it is. Each upload does come with its own timestamp, so if you're doing the monthly ones, obviously we'll see your monthly submission for April will obviously be at some point in April. A word on timestamping as well. You've all been given the deadlines for all of your submissions. We'll be able to see when those go up. Ideally, you should be thinking about putting them in a good sort of day or two beforehand. Obviously, if there are problems with the Mushroom system, it being unavailable for whatever reason, we can be a bit lenient on upload on upload dates and things, and you won't incur any penalties. But ideally, if you're going to have problems with submission, for example, like you're not going to have internet, or perhaps you're going to be traveling and won't actually be able to submit it in time, please come up with a plan B. As in the real world within industry, deadlines are not looked on particularly well. So do come up with plan Bs and Cs so that you make all of your document submission deadlines. So other than that, there's no size limit as well. So, I'd love to see high quality photos, any CAD drawings you might have, nice photo of your team when you get all that sorted out, pictures of what you're doing in terms of manufacture, design, any kind of tweaking and testing of your product once you've got your prototypes working. It'd be great to see and share. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the fact that we'd be doing opt-ins. Obviously, we know that some teams, they may want to sort of withhold certain things that to be shared publicly, and that's absolutely fine. If you don't want to share anything, obviously, don't tick the checkbox when you submit it. But obviously, we'd be delighted to see all of what you've been up to, and basically get the excitement growing as we head towards the finals on the 2nd of September. Other than that, my sort of advice really, I've been at the Imeki for 6 years, and I've been involved in student challenges for all of that time, is to keep, make sure that you work as a team and plan early. I've spoken to a number of student teams on different challenges, as well as Apprentice Automation Challenge, where they sort of say, oh, we wish we had a bit more time. And I think Solomon as well is very keen to point that out. Just make sure you bake in a bit of extra time just to deal with some extra, sort of unexpected consequences that come up, or if you need to sort of replace anything. And in addition, enjoy it. We love putting on challenges like this. It's going to be something that you'll look upon fondly once you've completed. And obviously the fact that the TMMX, the Manufacturing Expo, is a prize that we're offering the winners. It's a great opportunity to get out there, to get some recognition for your hard work, as well as to make some really good contacts in industry. And who knows where that will take you once you finish your apprenticeship courses. As well as that, Sandra pointed out that we have an online library, and indeed, once you get your apprentice membership with us, take advantage of our library. May not be useful for anything you do at the Apprentice Automation Challenge. It could be also, but we have a huge online resource that we've been working on over lockdown. So there's plenty to take advantage of there. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing everyone, in the weeks and months as we go on. And best of luck with your designs and your work. Really looking forward to the finals later in the year.
Thank you, Chris. I've just shown the Machine platform by screen share at the moment, just to give the teams an idea of how it should look like. As Chris has mentioned, if you don't have access to this already, it should be 2 members of each team should have login details for Machine. But if you don't have it, just pop an email to the AAC challenge email address and we'll get you set up. But I think that is pretty much it in terms of everything that we needed to cover today. We'll just move on to the Q&A session. If any of you have any questions, please do submit them in the chat box. I will relay them to everyone, and also feel free to raise your hand, turn on your camera and unmute yourself to verbally ask the questions. So feel free to do so over the next few minutes. I'll stay quiet. Yes, I will circulate the recording of the welcome webinar today, as well as the slide deck to everyone, so they have that as a reference and to catch up on anything that you've missed as well. Perfect. And Scott and Sandra have shared a couple of links by the chat regarding the awards and membership benefits that we have at the IMechE. So please feel free to head over there to have a look. I'm going to take the silence as there's no questions.
Yeah, Fiona, just to sort of remind everyone, obviously for all of the awards that we give, work on the Apprentice Automation Challenge is usually a good project to talk about when it comes to submitting a nomination. So might not be for this year, but when it comes to next year as well, you have plenty to talk about. So highly recommend getting people getting involved in that. Getting some further recognition, a bit of cash for your pocket as well, but also something that very much sort of marks you out as a cut above the rest for next year.
Perfect. Well, I'll give everyone back 45 minutes of their day. But if any of you have any questions, please. Oh, I think a message just popped up from George. Is July the 1st the absolute final deadline for the whole report? It's a whole month ahead of the competition, so a lot could happen. If any of the judges could provide any advice, I believe July the 1st is the deadline, but if anyone can just confirm that.
Yeah, I'll be happy to confirm that. Yeah, so July the 1st is a report deadline. We do recognise, and in the past, that a lot of stuff can happen between the deadline and the finals day, but you will have opportunity to cover some of the additional development or manufacturing in your finals day presentation. So you can raise that on the finals day, so don't feel like you're missing out. And then also we've also now got the monthly update, so if anything really big comes up, feel free to add it in there. But also, I don't think we're not gonna hold you to ransom on your report and say this doesn't look anything like your final prototype. So we understand things change in engineering, so I wouldn't worry about that too much.
Thank you, Jason. I'll give a few more seconds for any further questions. Okay.
I mean, just to point out as well that, if you don't have to sort of ask a question in this forum, there's plenty of opportunity. You can catch up with us, either drop us a line via the AAC email address. It's me that's going to be running it anyway, so at least you put a face to a name. And certainly if I can't answer it, I'm sure one of the other ladies and gents on the committee can certainly help out with that. So don't sort of feel like, oh crumbs, I forgot something. Just drop us in an email and we'll sort it out from there. But yeah, thanks very much for your time.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so feel free to pop any questions or any comments to ac.challenge@imeki.org. We will monitor the inbox, myself and Chris. So I'll end the webinar here today. So thank you all for our speakers and presenters today for your time and preparations for today's webinar. And thank you for all the teams who have joined today, and welcome to the Apprentice Automation Challenge 2022. As I said, the recording and the slides will be circulated, so just keep an eye out for that. And I think that's pretty much it for today. So all the best of luck with your designs and report writing, and we look forward to seeing you, seeing your monthly updates, and keep in touch. Thank you.